I just got in these MP1584 buck converter modules the other day, and I'm going to build today, show you how to build a linear current booster with the minimum amount of components. These are pretty small to work on. You almost need a microscope, at least a good magnifying glass, but there's two little resistors, and these tie into the enable pin. The way it's set up, the chip itself turns on at 1.5 volts, off at 1.2 volts. So if you have a 1-to-1 voltage divider, that means this thing turns off at 3 volts. So what we want to do is make that higher, and so what we want to do is reduce the value of the lower resistor. You can do that by putting a fixed resistor in of about 10K or a 20K pot, going from that resistor to common to make a voltage divider. These things are rated about 3 amps. I wouldn't want to use them more than 1 amp. So this is a demonstration of how this works. Right now you see this light flashing, and this waveform over here, this is the 5 volts coming out. This is when it's turned off. The capacitor charges up at these ramp periods, and so when it gets up to a certain voltage it turns on. As the capacitor discharges, it goes down to a lower voltage, and then it turns off. At the 1.5 volt, 1.2 volts, you have 300 millivolts difference. When you get up in the higher voltages, around 18 volts, that turns into about 3 volts difference. That's still pretty good, because basically, if this didn't have it in the circuit, your buck converter would throw your solar panel into a death spiral. You'd have no voltage, and you wouldn't be charging at all. This turns on and off, and you know, that may seem horrible, but if you're charging a battery, the battery doesn't care. It'll work just fine. You want to have a big capacitor to turn that excess energy into storage. If it's smaller, this is what happens. You get into a higher frequency, and normally you wouldn't care what the frequency is, but this chip has it's instant turn off, but it turns on. It takes 50 milliseconds. 50 milliseconds is a long period of time. That's why you can easily see this. And you want to make sure your capacitor is large enough so you can store all the charge that comes from the solar panel. So this is the idea. This turns this little chip into a linear current booster. You could put a motor on the output, and it would bump. So a nice little pump for a solar pond to aerate it, put some air in, or circulate the water, and you wouldn't need a battery. It's a current multiplier. So this is an easy linear current booster you can make. If instead of just having the resistor here with a voltage divider, if you added a zener, you know, say a 15 volt zener, then the turn on turn off would be tighter. That would be more desirable, but for a simple 1 resistor mod, it's a pretty easy thing to build. I'll be doing more videos on other conversions, and I'll probably try one with a zener in here, so you know, watch for a part 2. But this makes a nice cell phone charger. The battery won't care if it's turning on and off all the time. So that's the idea for today. You won't see anyone else on YouTube doing this kind of stuff. All my videos on pretty much original material. Thanks for watching.